Irfan Habib's story actually begins with his father, Muhammad Habib. He was in many ways, he was the original Distortion, the Distortion in chief, the progenitor of, history distortion in India. So Muhammad Habib's antecedents, he was married to a lady called Suhaila Tyabji. This Suhaila Tyabji was the granddaughter of Badruddin Tyabji, who was the first Muslim president of the Indian National Congress. Not too many people know this.
The first
Muslim president of
Indian
the
National
Indian
Congress.
National Congress,
Okay.
the pre-independence Indian National Congress.
Okay.
And Muhammad Habib, he finished his formal education in India. Then, for higher studies, he went to Oxford. And there at Oxford, he came in close contact with, and then he was greatly influenced by an unvarnished Islamic bigot. His name, Maulana Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
The same Maulana Muhammad Ali of Ali brothers' notoriety. He was Muhammad Habib's ustad. Completely bigoted man. And this man, Maulana Muhammad Ali, he extended generous patronage to his protege. And by the way, Muhammad Ali was also responsible for spearheading what eventually became the Khilafat movement and led to the genocide of Hindus in Malabar.
Okay. So
Same Maulana Muhammad Ali.
So this Maulana that you referred to, was he in Oxford or he happened
He
to
was
be...
in Oxford.
Oh, he was
in Oxford.
Okay.
Now, after Muhammad Habib completed his higher studies in Oxford, his ustad, Maulana Muhammad Ali, he said, "Dekho beta, bahut ho gaya tumhara Oxford ka studies. You are finished with flying colors or whatever. You have to do something for the QOM. You have to do something for the cause. So come back to India. The cause will be served, better if you are here." And then, so this guy Muhammad Habib, he did his ustad's call, returned to India, and began teaching at Jamia Millia. Okay. One of the alumnus of Jamia Millia is a lady named Barkhadat. Okay, you see how this whole poisonous tree is.
The talent pool.
Talent pool. Now, after spending some time in Jamia Millia, Muhammad Habib then jumped to the newly founded Aligarh Muslim University. There he joined first as a reader and then eventually was promoted as the professor of history in 1922 or 23.
The string of secular institutions.
But overall, in general, Muhammad Habib's seminal contributions in seeding the distortion of Islam's brutal history in India can be summed up in the following bullet points. First, Islamic invasion of India was a myth. Okay. So these are some of the seminal, foundational narrative of Indian history that Muhammad Habib seeded for the first time. Okay. Point number one, like I said, Islamic invasion of India was a myth. Point number two, Muslim invaders were not motivated by their religious tenets in their conquests of India. Point number three, the large-scale forcible conversions of Hindus were an even bigger myth because, in his own words, millions of low-caste Hindus voluntarily and joyfully accepted the universal brotherhood of Islam in order to escape Brahminical oppression.
Oh, wonderful.
Alright, this is point number 3. Point number 4. Islam was actually a liberating force in India, which for the first time introduced true social equality in the country, as a result of which lakhs of Hindus voluntarily helped to build magnificent mosques and palaces and other monuments for Muslim sultans and nawabs and rulers. Point number 5, the last point. Aurangzeb's vast empire of Islamic bigotry imploded due to a revenue crisis and not because of his industrial scale oppression of Hindus, which led them to launch a nationwide rebellion against his rule.
So the economic whitewashing of religious
economic
bigotry.
crisis is why the Mughal Empire under Aurangzeb, disintegrated and declined. Okay, so these are 5 points which we shall see, in different shades of the same narrative as we go along. By the way, Muhammad Habib was also the great Ustad who taught third-rated lessons in Indian history to Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi, who was still a small girl.
So indoctrination happened early.
Happened very early. Okay. Now with that background, let's come to Irfan Habib, his son. A worthy son of a eminently distortionist father. Now, before we actually get into Irfan Habib's industrial scale distortions of Indian history, let's look at a very revealing disclosure, like an overall assessment of what this man continues to represent. All right. This comes from the writing from the autobiography of the eminent archaeologist K.K. Mohammed. This is what he writes in his autobiography, and I quote, "Professor Habib is a hard-working person but crafty. His group would threaten, cheat, and would be part of various intrigues. Anyone who criticized this group would be branded as a Hindutvavadi and communalist. Professor MGS attributes this group for making Babri Masjid a national issue. According to Muhammad, I'm paraphrasing this one, according to K.K. Muhammad, it was during the Babri Masjid issue that Irfan Habib's mask of secularism was completely stripped off. It came away.
Okay.
As the head of a government body, which is ICHR, Irfan Habib should not have taken sides in the dispute." Okay, now I'm quoting K.K. Muhammad again. "People saw this as an effort to increase his influence by taking sides with the Muslim side in the dispute. Another encounter, which Muhammad mentions, occurred in the presence or in front of an interview panel consisting of top officials, for example, the Vice Chancellor and Irfan Habib. During the interview, the Vice Chancellor said he could not consider anyone for the Aligarh Muslim University who did not respect Professor Habib. K.K. Muhammad replied that the respect has to be earned and not demanded. Another case one more case, this is amazing. In this case, when someone with less marks, exam marks, someone with less marks and no postgraduate diploma was given the post of an assistant archaeologist instead of K.K. Muhammad.
Okay.
Muhammad also shows, in his book, he also has evidence against a false accusation that Irfan Habib had made against him. When K.K. Muhammad said all of this in that interview panel, Irfan Habib sat there with his eyes cast down. And K.K. Muhammad writes, and I quote, "I was sure that he would stab me at the first given opportunity."
Kudos to K.K. Muhammad.
Very courageous.
Very courageous.
Kudos to him.
Exception.
And his service. Okay, this is the kind of overall assessment of what this man stands for, Irfan Habib. And his long and toxic career as a distortionist par excellence, it falls into 4 broad phases, and we look at each of them one by one. The first phase comprises Irfan Habib's early years and his rise to power and influence in the history establishment as the worthy son of a eminent whitewasher, Muhammad Habib, at the Aligarh Muslim University. In fact, for several decades, Irfan Habib treated the AMU as his personal fiefdom. He awarded and promoted all those who toed his line and destroyed the careers of those who merely disagreed with him.
Speech.
Champion of freedom of speech, you see? Yeah. The second phase. This involves Irfan Habib's numerous stints as a chairman of the Indian Council for Historical Research, ICHR, This was a role he performed with the acumen and the attitude of a medieval Muslim tyrant. Irfan Habib was chairman of the ICHR for a record 5 terms, non-consecutively, and at other times he was on its management board as a member. And guess what? Irfan Habib became the ICHR chairman with retrospective effect for 2 times. These are all in government records. Announcing him, appointing him as chairman with retrospective effort. How does it work, sir?
And these appointments are done by the Ministry of Education?
Yeah. HRD, whatever. And not only that, Irfan Habib, along with other eminent historians like Bipan Chandra, Romila Thapar, Shri Mali and all those guys, they continuously awarded themselves several projects. For example, one translation project of their own books and collections of articles.
So they created the project of their own books and awarded themselves.
Yeah. Okay. And let's see. There's one more. This is interesting. They cooked up something called a medieval sources project sometime in the 1970s.
Okay.
Medieval sources of history, basically. Okay. In 1970s. In this endeavor, in this criminal enterprise, Irfan Habib pocketed a tidy sum of 27,000 rupees for working on something called the Akbarat-e-Aurangzeb. Basically, news reports and news chronicles of Aurangzeb's period.
Okay.
Till date, this man has not written a single line on this work. 27 grand in 1970s. My dad's salary in that time was something like $150 or something. Monthly salary.
And no output.
No output. Okay. Then there was another translation project in which Irfan Habib receives a lump sum payment of $11,000. I mean, the list, I've read out, all these financial irregularities in a previous episode.
I remember. Yeah.
So, just because, for relevance, I'm mentioning these 2 projects. Overall, I think it appears that the ICHR, they had transformed the ICHR into a private bank for all these plunderers who call themselves as historians. So, evidently, they could dip into its funds as and when they felt like, taking some money, taxpayer money. And of course, who can forget the fact that this was the same Irfan Habib who wrote a glowing foreword to Paramatma Sharan's work, which had been plagiarized by Tasneem Ahmed, who was Irfan Habib's shagird or student. For this work, that Tasneem Ahmed got a PhD.